friends, and welcome to this special video on the Mindful Making YouTube channel. This video is released as part of the Knitathon in the autumn of 2025. As I'm recording, it is the 1st of October, but we are here if you watch it live or as it is released on the 5th of October and 1 o'clock Danish or Central European time. If you are participating in the Knitathon, which is a 24-hour knitting event where we dedicate 24 hours or as much time as we have and can to our knitting, and then are entertained throughout those 24 hours with different podcasters. We are approaching the end as there's only a couple of hours left of this Knitathon. So I hope you've had a wonderful time, and if you've participated, I know that you have been having a great time together with the knitting. And if you are watching after the release day, welcome. It's as much relevant to you as it is for those of us who have knitted almost 24 hours. Let's start as per usual. First of all, where you can find me. You can find everything in the Mindful Making universe. You can find on my website, which is called mindfulmaking.com.au. In the last episode, I mentioned that the website was down. It is up again, but it's still com.au surname. So mindfulmaking.com.au, where you can find my designs and also links to this channel and blog posts where I post all the show notes for each episode, and there is a direct link as well for this episode in the description box below. There's also a link to my Instagram account, which is Mindful Making. So that's where you can find me. If you're new, welcome. My name is Jane, Danish, living in the north of Copenhagen, returned from Australia, and I keep this podcast in English because there are many viewers around the world. So welcome to everyone. And then what I'm wearing. That's also part of the normal routine. So this is the Great Southern Vest that I designed a few years back. Yes, I think so. And it was a collaboration with Great Southern Yarn. The original was knitted in a wonderful, bright, darker blue than this one. This is knitted in Holzgarn, and it is 2 strands of super soft held together in the colorway Iced, and it's worked on a 5.5mm needle. The details of this vest are these twisted rib stitches patterning that's on the shoulders and down the side seam, and then in the sort of bands around the neck and the armholes, and also with a split hem with a twisted rib. Lovely and cozy, and now as we have moved into autumn here in the Northern Hemisphere, I've started wearing it with a merino jumper underneath, and it's nice and warm but still light. So I wear this quite often. The design and the pattern you can find on my website. So the Great Southern Vest. I hope you have your project and a cup of coffee or tea or something. I have a coffee, still warm, so let's just have a sip. As I mentioned, I've lived in Australia, and this episode will be a visit down under to Australia. So in the last episode, I asked for suggestions for what the topic could be of this special episode, and a couple of you suggested, oh, what about Australian designers? Maybe you could walk us through a few suggestions. and I thought that's an excellent idea. I will, however, also put in some stories about yarn and about fiber and about wool, because that's probably what I know more about than Australian knitters, Australian designers, sadly. Because while living in Australia, I tended to gravitate towards the Danish designers. So I'm not that familiar with Australian designers, but I've picked out a few that I think you might find interesting. And what I will present today is by no means a full comprehensive overview of Australian knitting, Australian wool, Australian designers. It's only a dip into that community and the skills in Australia. Based on that suggestion, I went back into my archive of footage, and I found some footage taken from a trip to central New South Wales, to Armidale, where I visited a colleague, and where we also visited the Nundle Woolen Mill. So I will present that footage to you today, and then there will be some suggestions of websites, so there will be virtual visits to other places in Australia and designers. To give you a sense of where we are geographically, here is a map of Australia. Of course, Australia is a huge country, so we will only cover a tiny bit. So I lived in Sydney, and as I mentioned, we will visit sort of Armidale, as you can see circled here, and then I will also take you to Victoria, close by Melbourne, to go to Tarndwarncoort, which is a homestead, wool homestead, that has a very interesting story that I will share with you. So now you have a sense of where we are geographically. So if we talk about sheep and wool, Australia is well known for its wool production. Actually, Australia is the largest exporter of raw wool. So it provides 45% of the world exports of raw wool. There are 76.5 million sheep in Australia, and the majority is located in New South Wales. Over the years, breeding and refinement of the wool, so now Australia have some of the world's finest merino wool. And if you ever get to Australia, visit Australia, I strongly suggest to go to a wool shop, but also a wool shed, where, you know, a wool farmer, where you can actually see the sheep. I had the pleasure of visiting Bendigo Sheep and Wool Show in 2024 and in 2023 for that matter, and got to feel, you know, on the wool's back, the wool there, and you know, the stables are this long, and it's the finest pure white wool just underneath the surface. It's pretty amazing. So Australian wool, some of the finest merino wool, is shipped around the world for milling and processing. And if we look then at per capita or sheep per person, is Australia then sort of the biggest wool country or sheep country? Well, New Zealand has more sheep per person, as there are 4.5 sheep per person in New Zealand. And in Australia, that number is 3.3 sheep per person. So we are in the wool area. And I guess wherever you are in the world, if you buy wool in a wool shop, some of the yarn is likely to come from Australian or New Zealand sheep. So with that introduction to wool, and with my limited knowledge, I fully acknowledge the wealth and the depth of knowledge that is out there. I have just scratched the surface. But let me just take you to the trip to Armadale and to Nundle Woolen Mill. I hope you'll enjoy. Welcome to Nundle Woolen Mill. As you enter, there is a mixture of souvenirs and, of course, plenty of beautiful yarn. Here we have Nundle yarn in the many stunning colors that they produce. And these were the ones that I chose. No surprise in the color scheme here, and it's beautiful sock yarn. Then we move into the machine room, basically, of the mill, where you also see plenty of yarn and undyed yarn. And here we have examples of the wool at different stages of production. So we have the raw wool, we have washed and carded wool, and also spun and twisted. Then we move to the opener. That's where the bale of raw wool comes in and are opened and entered into the washing machine. And to the carding machines, where we have various rolls that ensures that the fibers are stretched out, carded and laid in the same direction. And here a very patient job of spinning the wool. And here we see one of the final stages, which is twisting the wool. Finally, though, they are dyed in the dye house.
Maybe 10 colours. So we every yarn we produce is produced in 40 colours. So it's and we make up all our dyes here. We have a red, a blue, and a yellow, and pretty much red, blue, and yellow makes up about 30 odd of our colours.
And the beautiful tablelands of New South Wales. Back home at Amanda, my colleague's place, where the chooks were just so curious about me and the camera. And thank you, Amanda, for a lovely stay at your beautiful house and in your wonderful garden. Welcome back. I hope you enjoyed that little tour of one of the few wool mills in Australia that are left. There are a few more, but this is one of the, an old traditional wool mill. Next up, I thought we would go one step deeper and visit, or at least virtually, visit a sheep farm. And Sadly, I have not been there or visited myself in person. I'd love to go there. There are courses, there are accommodations, so you can stay there. And I am taking you virtually to Tarndwarncoort, which is in Victoria, the state of Victoria. And I am just scrolling through their website. And as you can see, it is a very traditional and long-standing family-owned homestead that have refined and breeded sheep for many generations. They have breeded the Polworth sheep, and the Polworth wool is an excellent and exquisite wool. Sadly, I never got to visit Tarndwarncoort personally, but I do have some of their yarn. So this is part of the Origin series, Polworth, and in natural colors. So here it says 100 Polworth wool, 4-ply fingering, 84 meters per 100 gram, one family, one flock, since 1840. A heritage yarn helping conserve Australia's first breed of sheep and its place of origin. Grown at Tarndwarncoort, processed in Geelong, which is in Victoria as well, Australia, and Napier, New Zealand. So it's a very local yarn. So the natural white, and then this is ash, and this is natural taupe. I have more of this color, the dark color, and then these is intended for color work. I have probably had this yarn for 5 years and never got to knit with it. It's deliciously soft. It does pill a bit, but I think that's what to expect from such a soft wool. And also, you know, we can just depill our garments. Yeah, intended for a 3.25 millimeter needle with 28 stitches per 10 centimeters. I have also designed a shawl using Polworth yarn, and it is the Solidago shawl, and this beautiful color of mustardy yellow is created by Katrina of Pirate Pearl Yarns. This is knitted up on a 4 or 4.5 millimeter needle. It is a shawl made up of sections, so you have stockinette and garter ridges, and then this lace patterning which is repeated, and then in simple lace border. I have used 2 skeins of a yarn similar to this, so for 800 meters of yarn. Yeah, the Solidago shawl, which is created in Polworth yarn. So that was Tarndwarncoort and Polworth. Then we move on to Australian designers. I have only brought you 2 and mentioning a third. And as I've said, a disclaimer, that's not everything there is in Australia. Of course, there's plenty. But I've just picked out these 2 ladies, or 3 ladies actually. So let's start with Amber O'Brien, a well-known Australian designer. She loves color, and she also have many shawls or wraps where, well, using mini skeins or using different colors throughout. So it's an excellent option if you're looking for an Advent project for your Advent minis. She has plenty of suggestions for that. So Amber O'Brien, she also have a YouTube channel, and she has some quite wicked colorful designs to choose from. Also, if we are talking about Advent projects and using mini skeins in different colors, I recommend you check out Curious Handmade, and that is Helen Stewart. She also have many shawls that either fades or utilizes different skeins of yarn. Could be mini skeins, as I mentioned, or could be leftover yarn. So Helen Stewart is also an option for that. Then the other designer that I wanted to mention is my dear friend Vera Marco, and she is Vera Loves Knitting. And if you are into cables and a bit more interesting, I'm about to say, stitch patterning, she's your girl. We always joked about me loving just the stockinette and just knitting round and round and round, and she felt that that was just the most boring thing to knit. So she introduces cables, stitch patterning, different directions of your knitting. So if you're into something a bit more special and unique, check out Vera Loves Knitting and her website, and you can also find her in Ravelry. So a shout out to Vera, my dear friend. If we then move across the ditch to New Zealand, there is also a designer I want to mention, and that is Libby Johnson of Truly Myrtle. A well-known New Zealand designer. She has plenty of designs under her belt, and I've knitted a fair few of those. I have knitted a timely cardigan, which is a fingering weight striped cardigan. You can see more about that as I'm wearing it in episode number, I have to look down, in number 15, so a few years back. That's where I'm wearing my timely cardigan. And then I've also knitted her Flusy cardigan, which is a round yoke with color work made up of mosaic knitting. And you can see that in episode number 10. And then finally, Nula, which is a oversized drapey blouse, I would say, with a lace patterning down the shoulder. And I am wearing that in episode number 7. If you want to see more, I recommend that you go back and find those episodes. It's 5-6 years ago. That's when I started podcasting. I hope the sound have improved since then. So if you are going back in time, you have to just increase the volume of me talking. I think actually I still have a bit of sound issue, but I hope for sure it has improved. But that is Truly Myrtle. Many beautiful designs: hats, shawls, socks, jumpers, cardigans, you name it. As we are in New Zealand, I visited there in November 2024 with Astrid and Aska, my son and daughter. And I also brought home some yarn from New Zealand. And let me just introduce you to that. I brought with me this wool and possum blend. It consists of 30% possum fur and 30% merino wool. On the label it reads, "This yarn is a sustainable choice made from fabric offcuts and virgin possum fur and merino wool. This is upcycling in action, turning what is normally a waste stream into a first-grade, high-quality product. Possum fur is a super fiber that has a hollow core, making it lightweight and insulating. Merino wool is very fine and soft and helps wick moisture away from the skin, preventing odors and keeping you dry. The blending of these brilliant natural fibers create beautiful soft yarn, unsurpassed in warmth and durability." So it is called brush-tailed upcycled possum merino 4-ply. Light color, a beige, and then this deep brown. This is the main color, and then I just have one of this beautiful dark blue yarn. The possum, I will insert a picture of the possum because you may not know what animal it is. So that's a possum fur, and that is dark fibers. So you get this depth in the coloring of the yarn, in the dyeing of the yarn. The possum was introduced from Australia to New Zealand. In Australia, it's a native animal. In New Zealand, it's a pest. So that's why it's allowed to use the possum fur in New Zealand. That's not allowed in Australia. Here is another example of a possum yarn, and this is from Touch Possum Yarn. It is also from New Zealand. It's 60% merino wool, 30% possum, 10% silk, in a wonderful blue color. I don't know whether it comes through on the camera, but you can see when you look at it real life, there are some darker strands of fiber, dark gray in here. I think I only have one skein of this, so that might be a one skein wonder shawl at some stage, or a scarf or something, or a hat maybe. But that's some of the wool that I have in my boxes that I brought home from down under. Before I move into more colors and talking about the difference in color palettes, I just wanted to mention a very clever hand dyer. Australia, there is a lot of hand dyers in Australia. Stunning, vibrant color scheme, and also tonal colors as well. One that I picked out is Louis and Lola, from where I purchased many yarn over the years, many skeins over the years. I found this in my stash, and it's a BFL nylon fingering, and it was a sock clop some years back, and it's called Sarah Ann Rocks, and it's inspired by Tasmanian nature places and photographies of nature. So this is 80% superwash blue faced Leicester and 20% nylon, and it has this blend of grey, blue, and a bit of rusty red. Still sitting there looking for a very special project to be used for. So that's Louis and Lola yarns. She also have possum yarns that are hand dyed. So check her website out for what she has in her shop. Then talking about colors. In Australia, we had the 9 months of summer. Maybe therefore, naturally, more vibrant, bright colors were used as compared to the Danish palette, which is all about the browns, beige, grey, natural, neutral colors. And you can see that I am Danish with my preferences. In Australia, though, when I brought out Holstgarn and sold on my web shop, I curated the colors that I had in my shop. You know, there are 40 colors, and of course I couldn't take them all or bring them all. So I had curated a sample of colors. Surprisingly, though, the greys didn't sell. They were hard to sell for the Australian knitters, where in Denmark I was used to them just flying off the shelves. I think now the greys have been overtaken by beige brown colors here, but there is for sure a tendency towards those neutrals, natural colors here. So when I brought out Holstgarn to Australia, the pinks and the greens and also some cinnamon and mustardy colors were popular. The greys not so much, which was a huge surprise for me. Well, that was a trip around Australia. I hope you enjoyed what you saw. And as we are approaching the end of this special episode, I just wanted to move into the normal procedures of a regular episode and just talking about what I've finished since the last episode. I have finished my mohair scarf, which is just 80 stitches, stockinette, back and forth, 4 different colors of silk mohair, and then it's just winding round and round and round, and then you have a nice scarf. Yeah. So idea is now handed over to you guys. I just knitted up one skein at a time. You can use leftovers, putting it together smaller or wider stripes. Yeah, so this is finished, and naturally it will roll the hem, which that's part of the design. Well, it's not a design, but 80 stitches, 3.5mm needle. Then on my needles is Asker's jumper. It is worked in super soft color sapphire, and it is this blue color. It comes up darker than on the screen that it is in reality, and it's held with Titicaca in this color, which is dragonfly. It also comes up darker than in reality. So it's a mixture of wool and alpaca. I am working an all over texture. This is how far I've come. A set-in sleeve, and there will be a neckline here, a neckband, and just knit and purls and twisted stitches in the columns. all over straight. So far I've decided just to stay with this these square shoulders. I think it will fall nicely over his shoulders. Yeah. I am on my second Titicaca ball, so I have knitted up at least 400 meters of yarn, so probably 600 meters of yarn. Yeah, and I'm working on a size 4mm needle, a US 6, a gauge of 24 stitches per 10 centimeters. Yeah, so I am enjoying that while watching TV at night. Now it is getting darker. It's obviously we're moving into the colder and darker season, so we just had the day, the 21st of September, where the day and night are equal length, and now the nights or darkness length increases by 4 minutes each day. So we feel it every single day. Yeah. So it's time for candlelights and tea and knitting, couch and blankets, and I think it's, well, favorite season of the year. And I'm also looking forward to the trees to turn. It's been some years back since I've seen, you know, those beautiful colors of yellow and red in Denmark, you know, after living 12 years in Australia. So that's what I'm working on. And then finally, thank you for watching. I hope you've had a wonderful time, that you've enjoyed the Knitathon, that you've worked on your projects, that you have been inspired and possibly been or getting to know some new podcasters as well. And before I end, I just want to give a huge shout out and greetings to all my wonderful Aussie knitting friends. If you are watching, hello everyone. I miss you. I'm so blessed to have had you and still have you in my life, although on a distance. It's been a wonderful trip down memory lane, basically, and revisiting the wonderful time in Australia with this episode. So I hope wherever you are watching from around the world that you've enjoyed this little tour down under, focused on wool and on knitting. And next up is Miss Knits and Mesterværker, and you can find the link to that episode going to missknits.dk, and that's where you find the link to the next episode. And thank you so much for joining here today, and I'm looking forward to seeing you again very soon. Bye bye.